It doesn't really matter where you are. At the end of the day, the word is support. You know, you need to get the time and the support to making sure that you get your ideas across. If you can't get that, no manager will ever be successful.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the latest of our Insight Series. I'm Ray Boggiano of University Campus of Football Business and its Global Institute of Sport. And we're joined today by a very special guest thanks to our partnership with the League Managers Association. And to very briefly introduce him, our guest today is one of the most highly respected and recognised coaches in world football. He spent 6 incredibly successful years as assistant manager under Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, and he's now the assistant manager of the Australian national team. So welcome, and thank you very much for joining us, René Meulensteen.
Thank you, Ray. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic, and I've mentioned the Australian national team there, and obviously all eyes are on the qualifications for next year's World Cup. How are the preparations going for the next round of qualifiers?
Well, until coronavirus hits us all, it was really going really well. Graham Arnold is the manager. We took over after the World Cup in 2018. We have a very clear idea how we wanted to take the Australian national team forward. And I can still remember Graham asking me about, what do you think about the Australian national team? And I said, well, listen, I think that you can ask anybody in the street, any Australian fan or any pundit, and they will all speak with a lot of respect about Australia, because it is a sporting nation, and they're always are very committed to what they do. Football-wise, they will say Australia is a very, very well organised team, very hard to beat, very hard-working, etc. But nobody will speak about the attacking intent, the creativity, the amount of chances created, the goals they scored, etc. And I said, these are the layers that we need to try to put on top. And that is what we've tried to do. And it has changed. We've worked on it. So the first part of the World Cup qualifier has gone really well. We've won all the games. I think we've got 4 remaining qualifiers to go. We topped the group. We have 2 qualifying games upcoming in March, one against Kuwait, one against Nepal. The Kuwait one looks to be getting postponed until June. And then we need to go into the second phase. As a lot of people don't know, in Asia, you've got 2 sort of rounds of qualifiers, which makes it a very long route to actually get and to qualify, because after the first round, you get placed in a group, 2 groups of 6. And then basically all the big hitters of Asia are in it, including South Korea, Japan, Saudi, and there's a lot of upcoming emerging nations that are doing really well. So we're still a long way away, but hopefully we can get the show back on the road in March.
Great stuff, and as I say, a great start to the qualifying campaign, but it is a long one. How important is it as an emerging footballing nation, do you think, for Australia to qualify for the World Cup and continue that progress?
It's massively important. As you know, Ray, Australia, I don't know exactly the timings, but so many years ago, they changed from the Oceania going into Asia. And it had its pros and cons. The pros are that you're going to play by far more high competitive level games, because in Oceania, Australia was the best team out there. Competitive games against New Zealand, and that basically was it. The advantage of that was that all the younger national teams of Australia would always qualify for big tournaments like the Under-17s World Cup, the Under-19s World Cup, the Under-20s, etc. So they would have their games, and maybe the Olympic Games, etc., and all that. So that all added up by having good experience at high quality, tournaments. Now in Asia, it's be far more difficult for those younger age groups to qualify. It's a more difficult route for us, for the Socceroos as well. But for the country itself, for the the grassroots level, soccer is the soccer, whatever you call it. It is still the most participated sport at youth level, at grassroots level. So when they find a national team doing well at the Olympics or at the national team at the World Cup, it generates an interest, and it generates only good things, basically, for the development of football in any nation.
And you mentioned there about it being the most participated sport, and obviously it's a very competitive sporting landscape in Australia. How do you see football or soccer developing over the next few years? Is it going to continue to expand and develop as one of the leading sports in the country?
Well, there's three ways to it, really, Ray. It's obviously, first of all, soccer in Australia they have to still deal with the fact that you got rugby there, Aussie rules, cricket, who are very highly, watched and participated sports. It's a bit similar to America so many years ago when they tried to sort of really build soccer in America, and look where it is now. I always said to the people when I did some work in America, don't try to fight those other sports. Try to find a place next to them. Now, to do that, you need to make sure that you got things right, that you got a big influx of young people playing at a grassroots level. So you need to have a good grassroots program. That's key. Then secondly, you need to create those pathways where the better players have got pathways. You got a lot, like the bottom of the pyramid, a lot of kids playing, but you also need to create an elite sort of pathway to making sure that the level of football gets better over time. And then obviously you need the financial support, to making sure that you get the quality, the qualifications of the coaches up to speed and everything. So all those things need to happen. I think there's a lot of good things happening in Australia at the moment. I do think that they have come at crossroads where they have relied a little bit too heavily on the success they've had so many years ago with Harry Kewell and Vidukas and all that. And you had like a lot of good Australian players playing in big leagues in Europe, i.e. the Premier League, etc. That's not the case. So they need to get back to that. But I think with Graham Arnold as the manager, I think he's definitely the right man on the spot, because he knows exactly what it's easy to identify what needs to happen, but you also need to come up with some constructive ideas, to making sure that we can put things in place over the next 5 to 10 years that people say, well, really, that's a sustainable change and it's good for soccer in Australia.
And you've laid out a bit of a blueprint for success there. And one of the times when you undoubtedly had rivaled success was during your time at Manchester United. 3 Premier League titles, 2 League Cups, Champions League, Club World Cup. How, as a coaching team, do you maintain that level of success and motivation and the mentality of the players?
Well, most of it was down to because I came in sort of the latter stages of Sir Alex Ferguson's career, and for me it was more as an additional staff member and all the other ones as well. How can we now maintain that success to continue? To get there is one, but to stay there and maintain it, it's a different phase. So you need to identify obviously what brought you to success initially. What are the good things that we need to keep? How do we need to anticipate to making sure that we can maintain that success? So Alex Ferguson he's been very big in obviously bringing the right people in and around him. I think in the time that I've worked with him in those 6 years, I've felt that he sort of reached the pinnacle as a manager, because he's already built 2 successful generations of players. The first one, from '86 when he came to the club, it took a while before he got everything, the ingredients right and got the success. Then the 90s and the 2000s was very, very successful. And as a staff, you have a role to play. But the key was for Sir Alex Ferguson, I felt he trusted that staff and he delegated almost on a daily basis, a lot to us without losing any sight of control or anything. But at the same time, we as a staff, at least I speak personally for myself, I never felt any real negative pressure. Although, the demands of Manchester United are always the same and always the highest, winning the Premier League, winning the Champions League, winning every other trophy that's on show, if possible. Winning games, number one. Secondly, playing an attractive and entertaining brand of football for the audience. So it's the most difficult cocktail that you can have. But it rubs off to everybody, Ray. The manager was obviously the one that was the almost the embodiment of everything else. And he created that environment over years. We as staff were most important. We needed to make sure that we back that up on a daily basis, on and off the pitch.
And what was it like to work with Sir Alex on a daily basis? And was that the same as your expectations as you went into the role?
Well, I knew initially. I only knew Sir Alex Ferguson from TV, obviously, and what you can see there is that you see a very dedicated and driven manager. I mean, very clever a lot of time from the camera angles, because they probably have a camera on him for 90 minutes plus, but only when he was, maybe having a discussion with a fourth official or with a referee. You could see the drive from him and the fierceness, so to speak. And you have some sort of expectation. You think to yourself, will he be like that, on a daily basis? Will he be that in normal when he's around Carrington and everything? And nothing could be further from the truth. Like I said, I loved every minute working for him. He delegated, he trusted us as staff. I never felt any level of negative pressure. And that all comes down from him, how he managed everybody on a daily basis. And, I always say to a lot of people, because he asked me that question, is he really that, that strong character? Can he be really that angry? And I said, no, really not. Most important thing for me is how many laughs we had, during the week. Great sense of humor, made everybody feel really, good in his job that he did. So yeah, I loved it.
And do you think there's a benefit, or how important would it be to maintain the coaching staff or the staff that the players after a manager moves on, to maintain and continue that success and the culture of a club?
Well, it's an important thing you mentioned there, Ray. Culture, identity of clubs, those are so important. And obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson, when he came in, and over the time he spent over those 26 years, he has really developed a very strong culture and identity, and that rubs off to the players, to the playing style, to the success you have, and also to the staff. And what it creates is stability and continuity. Yeah, and continuity you need to have in your vision, the way that you want to achieve success over the short, medium, and long term. Yeah, the strategies, how you're going to put in place, etc. And then stability comes with the people that put those strategies into place. And if you've got people working with you for a long, long time, they understand the journey, and Sir Alex Ferguson had people with him working as long as he was there, in the 20 years, around 20 years, 15 years. In total, I was at Manchester United over 12 years and over 6 years with the first team. So all those staff members were there. So to really continue that and to maintain that, it's important in some ways to keep that stability and continuity in the club. It is important that you maintain a certain level of staff if you want to keep it. If you want to change, then obviously different things will happen for sure.
And you've also worked alongside Gus Hiddink, who's another giant of the game. What attributes did he bring that made him such a good manager?
Gus and I, well, we knew each other for a long, long time, although we've never really worked together. But every time we met each other from whatever function, he was always having a chat with me. He was always interested in what we were doing, what I was doing. And obviously when my time came, so I was moved away from Manchester United, he reached out and said, listen, I would love for you to come be part of my team. And we work in a similar way as you've done with Sir Alex Ferguson for so long, you know what I mean? Because he was obviously getting a bit older. He says, you do this and together we decide this, it's fine. And it was a great opportunity for me again. I like traveling. I think, myself, as people know, I'm born in Holland, but I've left Holland in '93. And since then, basically, football has given me the opportunity to see the world and meet so many fantastic people. And Gus, in that respect, is similar. Traveled the world. He's been all over. He's been in Korea. He's been in Turkey. He's been in Russia. Had worked at the top level of club football. So a combination of expertise and experience, that he's brought to the table. He's understand the different types of football that are played out there in the international level, which makes him very flexible and adaptable. That's what I felt was really good. Not being rigid in your sort of, you can have certain beliefs, you can have certain principles, but make sure you're adaptable and flexible. And with that experience, you can be that. So, and on top of that, he was a great man manager as well. Very similarities to Sir Alex Ferguson, great in communication around his staff and with players.
And obviously, the opportunity came up as well at Fulham for you to take the management role. How different is that from going from the coach, a senior coach or assistant manager, to the manager and being in that media presence? You mentioned the cameras being on Sir Alex during the game. You've got that added pressure, I guess, in the manager role. How different is that? Yeah,
it is massively different in terms of being an assistant manager, because obviously the manager is the one that gets exposed and is responsible for for the results more than anything, because you're in the results business. You're responsible for the style of play, etc., etc. For me, it wasn't that much, although it was a bit of a strange coming together of events, so to speak. Obviously, I've been a manager before, although in Qatar. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. When you're a manager, you're responsible. You're in the results business, and you need to make sure that you get your ideas across where the players respond. But it doesn't really matter where you are. At the end of the day, the word is support. You need to get the time and the support to making sure that you get your ideas across. If you can't get that, no manager will ever be successful. So for me, it was strange what happened at Fulham, because Martin Jol was there. He, again, like he was hitting, he wanted me to come and help him out, because it shows a little bit in my sort of patterns that I'm not saying that I don't want to be the manager, but I don't necessarily have to be the manager, because I would never pick the position just for a position of ego. You know what I mean? I like to do things what I'm good at, and I like to do it with the people that I like to do it with. That's the success formula. But Martin Jol, for whatever reason, left the club at Fulham, and they put me in charge. And when that opportunity comes, you take it. What is disappointing is that I had a very clear idea why things were struggling at Fulham, which I made clear. And then you need to have a little bit more time and support to put it right. And if you're down there, and you see it now again with Fulham, in the bottom three with all the clubs like West Brom and Sheffield, when you're down there, it is hard, it's difficult, to get things, because it sucks the negative results, sucks the energy out of it, things are going against you, but at one point, you come to a point where you think you turn the corner, and I think we did that at that particular time after the games against Manchester United and Liverpool, where we lost, unfortunately, through a penalty, but that's what it is. And eventually it all comes down to you. And then obviously, decisions are made, and that's part of football, that things can end that way as well.
You've mentioned your international experience there. You've travelled the world with the job and with the sport. A lot of that time as well has been spent in the Premier League, as we've discussed. What makes that league special and so attractive for people to work in and for players to come and play in?
And I think, first of all, it's the most exposed league in the world. I mean, everywhere you go in the world, you can watch Premier League games, I think that's one of the things. If you see that how the Premier League has evolved when it first started, I think it was early 90s, and you see obviously the changes of ownership, in the clubs, not only in the Premier League but also Championship, League One, League Two, because everybody wants to sort of be part of that party, so to speak. So it is the most watched league. Some of the best managers, some of the best players are playing at the league. But also, it's very diverse. You see it again in a few results. You saw it. You cannot, as a top four team, turn up to a bottom four team and just think, let's pick up the 3 points and go home. That's the Premier League for you. There's no easy game. There's no easy games. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. For everybody, for people, for fans, for players to watch it. But there's an enormous demand, for everybody. Managers are, like we said, in a results business. We've seen already some casualties this season when the pressure gets on. But there's some other great leagues as well. The Spanish league, the Bundesliga, the French league. I still think the Premier League is the biggest and the best one.
Fantastic. And talking of the best, who is the best player that you've coached in your career?
It's funny you ask me, because I get this question a lot of time, and always a little bit reluctant to answer it, because I think you do a bit of a disservice to all the other great players I've worked with. Because if you looked at the abundance of talent and potential we had at the time I was the first team coach of Manchester United, it was just it didn't stop. But most time it is the eye-catching players that sort of come to the forefront, and there's no coming away from it. And I think every other player would agree, especially after what he has achieved after even moving away from Manchester United. When I talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, everybody could see the talent he had, the potential. But I've never seen a more driven, dedicated player that knew exactly what he wanted to achieve. He from a very young age onwards, and there was no stopping him, and he fulfilled every dream in that respect. And he's went to Real Madrid, won titles there, won Champions League there. Now he's doing the same thing at Juventus, and he's in his middle 30s. He's an absolute pro example in terms of dedication towards his professional sport, and he was fantastic.
And you've mentioned obviously a lot of the kind of the mental traits of Cristiano Ronaldo there. Is football talent alone necessarily enough, or are there traits and skills that you look for in a young player to be able to know something there that will help them get to the top of the game?
It's a combination of things, Ray, to be really good football, and like I said, my philosophy and principles of of the way that I always like to work and I like to use almost as a navigation system is basically coming from analyzing all the top teams in the top leagues, whether you look at the countries that won the World Cup or European Championships, you go to the Champions League winners, you go to the winners of the big leagues, and that when you can analyze that, it tells you what are the main qualities of successful teams. And one of those qualities where they always have really good players, and in brackets, players that are world class. They are the ones that make a difference. And if you then start to analyze those players, defenders, midfielders, forwards, goalkeepers as well, you look at their qualities, you then know what you need to develop, because those players show it. And then the key is to transfer all those qualities into a development model that's realistic towards the age and stage you're working with. What do you put in place first, and how do you build it? So it comes down to I've developed a sort of a player profile jigsaw, so to speak, based on a colored corner, and yellow would resemble the tactical aspect of the game. So it's all about that the players have good awareness and understanding. And if you analyze top players in the game, most likely they make the right decisions. So the decision making is key. Yeah. Another piece of the jig would be the red piece, which is the physical side. And if you look at the players now, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo for an example, it is peak fitness, and everything that basically adds to peak fitness is supporting the athlete, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's diet, whether it's sleeping patterns, everything needs to go in there. But if you analyze Cristiano Ronaldo from a physical point of view, how he can make the difference, you look at his pace, you look at his strength, you look at his agility, and you look at his stamina. Those are the things you can see tangibly. And they are in one way genetically, influenced, and other parts you can really improve them than in training. Then you got the technical side of the game. The green bit. Everybody needs to have good basic skills. Your passing, receiving, shooting, heading, a crossing bit. But the most important thing, especially for forwards and other players in other positions, is the ability to dominate the 1v1 situations because of your unpredictability of use moves and skills, taking players on, go past people. And the last bit is that mental side you talked about. Every player, all of us, everybody in the world has got their own personality. You need to understand that personality. But it's that winning mentality, that drive that stands those players, out from the rest, the drive that they want to win things. So though this is sort of the four main aspects: tactically, physically, mentally, and technically. But it's that mentally. But you can have all the software, so to speak, the technical ability, the understanding of the game, and the physical. But it's that blue bit, the commitment, the attitude, the perseverance, patience at times, which drives those things on and drives you to fulfill your potential.
Fantastic. That's incredibly thorough and fascinating insight into the kind of coaching and talent development side of the game. Just looking at the students who could potentially want to go and work in the sports industry, maybe as a coaching role or any of a non-playing role. So the business, the media, the marketing side of things. Are there any skill sets or key traits that you think would be beneficial for those students?
I think the first thing that these young people need to try to find out is what is their expertise. What are they really, really good at? Is that being a coach? Is that being a team manager? Is it being on a physio side? Is it the media in sport? Is it the business side of sport? Find out what you're good at, and find out also sometimes when you look at it and it's what you're good at, you're most likely like to do it. It was funny, Ray, but I always used for myself to find out what I really wanted. I always used the hand of opportunity, and it's a little bit of a trick where you just at every finger you put something that you would love to do, and then you start to spin off all the things that can come with it, and eventually you'll find out what you really, really want, and then find out strategies to achieve it, because you need to have knowledge, you need to study, and the other thing I would say is learn from the best. Yeah, that's what I've always done. I've went to a lot of coaching courses. Obviously, initially in Holland, I went to the coaching courses in England. I've attended plenty of coaching seminars everywhere, and listen, there's a lot of sensible things being said everywhere. But I've always felt, really, what as a coach, how do I know that I'm doing the right things? And that's why what I said earlier. I analyze the best teams and the best players, because for me, they are the best gates. So if you want to be a very successful businessman in a football club, go and find out who is the best leading, businessman out there. Who are they and why are they the best? And what attributes have you got, and what do you need to do to get to where they are? And then try to find a way to, how do you say it, to get your experience, to get your experience on the work floor with the right people, to get you going in the job you want to do.
Fantastic. René, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for your time today.
No problem at all. My pleasure.